Hello everyone, thanks for coming outside with me today. Today I'd like to talk about setting up your bow on a budget, what accessories you can afford to cut corners on, and which ones you should really think about upgrading to the next best sight or stabilizer or rest. And I hope I can enable you to enjoy the sport of archery better because you're able to either save money or have a better experience because you have a little bit better equipment. What I'm telling you here is strictly a matter of personal opinion, and none of what I suggest is brand specific. I'm just showing you what I have found very useful, and what I enjoy using the most. I've had a lot of bad experiences with equipment and a lot of good experiences with equipment, and obviously the stuff that I have that's been a good experience I still use to this day. So completely forget the bow that I have here, Hoyt Carbon Element, obviously a very high-end bow, but that doesn't matter. I'm not worried about the bow itself, bare bones. I'm worried about the things that you can put on the bow, put on the strings to make your archery hunting or just archery shooting experience much more enjoyable. The first thing I should say is that most of my tips are going to be from an archery hunting perspective. So things like string silencers, which I'm going to talk about in a second, or personal types of quivers. Those are the gear tips that I'm thinking more from an archery hunting perspective. My first suggestion is get string silencers and put them not only in your string but in your cables. There's a lot of debate on whether they slow your string down too much or even if they add speed to your string. I don't care. I want my bow to be as quiet as possible. The first thing I would recommend is bow jacks. I use these, are called the slip jacks. They go in between the strands of your string and of your cables. I put one in the bottom of both the bus and control cable because when I pluck them like a banjo, they are the loudest on the bottom, and so I put them down there, significantly reduce vibration. I put one in the bottom portion below the string stop here in my string and above my peep sight as well. Personally, the most overlooked piece of archery hunting equipment is the quiver. People just think, yeah, I just go and get a quiver, and then they strap it on their bow, and then all they have is frustration and headache trying to keep arrows in, arrows making noise and rattling around, losing arrows when they're hauling it up in their tree stand. It's just a nightmare. The things that make this quiver different, a lot of other different quivers, is the attachment capabilities. So here it just has a very small bracket on the side of the bow here, and it just literally just slides right on. Just slides right on to the side there, and then just with one push of the tab over, it locks into place, and there's no rattling, there's no funky noise or vibration whatsoever, and all when I'm ready to take it off, it's just a little pull like that, and it slides right off, and I have all my arrows. The thing that makes a style of quiver like this better than all others is twofold, I believe. Number one is that these soft rubber, they're still pretty firm, but it's a rubber grip to it. It allows an arrow like this to be gripped in a very soft yet firm way, which allows no rattling whatsoever. Okay, so there's no snap whenever I pop this arrow in, right? There's just a little tiny little click, which makes it very silent in the dark in the woods, and then pulling them out is super easy. Just push at each point and it comes right out. There's a lot of quivers that have just the hood and then one capture at the bottom, and that is a nightmare for keeping your arrows in place, in particular if you're pulling up through brush from the lofty air of a tree stand. So I really like a dual capture quiver, and I like one that has these rubber grips compared to a plastic one. Say like this is something that you might see on a lower end bow. This is an octane, right? And again, it's a dual capture, which is great, but this is very hard plastic, and arrows like this gold tip, which are a little bit larger in terms of their diameter, really struggle to get in here, and they click. Hear how loud that is? I mean, that's how loud that is to get there. I mean, imagine undoing those in the dark in a tree stand. It's just a nightmare. So even though this quiver is nice and it's inexpensive, it creaks, it rattles, it comes apart easily. So a quiver is definitely an area you want to spend a little bit more money on than you might think you should. Next piece of equipment I'll talk about is the rest. And a lot of people have started to shoot drop-away rests, and I'm all for that. I really like a drop-away rest. However, I've shot whisker biscuits for years, or in the case of this Diamond Infinite Edge behind me, hostage rest, and even though they're not the quietest rests on the market and they're not the most efficient, they are very, very good rests, and particularly a full containment whisker biscuit. For a young archer and experienced archer, the last thing you want is to forget if your arrow is on there right. With the whisker biscuit, it's on there 100% of the time. So if you're new to archery, or if you really want that 100% safety net, if you will, with your sight, or your rest, that's a really good rest to start with. With that said, too, something like a whisker biscuit is $40, and for example, I have a QAD Ultra Rest, the HDX model here, is about $100 to $150. So the price point alone really might want to push you towards something like a Whisker Biscuit or a containment rest of that nature. But in terms of the arrow clearance and just the kind of tunability you have with a drop away, you might favor that a little bit more. It's a matter of preference, but either style works really, really well. The only thing that I look for in a sight is that from between the sight housing and where the bow attaches to the sight along the riser is that is strictly made out of all metal. An example of that is a sight like this. Now this is a Trophy Ridge 5-pin micro adjustment react pin technology sight. Way too expensive if you're first starting out. It's just not worth it. It's a very heavy sight. You're not used to shooting it. However, it is made strictly of aluminum. The sight housing here on the far left side all the way down. And you can find cheaper sights that are made strictly out of aluminum or some other form of alloy. This is a fuse sight made exclusively for Hoyt. The housing itself is a very hard polymer plastic, but every other part of it connecting it to the bow is made out of machined aluminum. It puts it a little bit higher in the price range, about $40, $50 to $60, even $70, but it is worth it. I promise you it is worth it. I've had so many cases where, especially in cold weather, the plastic of a cheaper polymer sight like this Apex sight behind me here on this Infinite Edge, it gets hard and brittle and your sight will actually move. Last thing you want is to be walking through the woods and bump your sight off of a tree or off a pile of brush or something, and your pins move and your hunt is completely ruined. With a sight that has metal components like that, it's much harder for it to move, along with the sight housing and the pins being kept safe inside. So I strongly recommend that if you're going to try to progress into the sport of archery, and particularly archery hunting, that you get a more durable sight. Last thing I'll talk about, and this is really not even a bow accessory, but rather a shooting accessory, is a release. And because there's a lot of people I see that have bad form because they have a bad release. When it comes to releases, I strongly recommend highly adjustable, and particularly if you're new. This is a TrueFire Patriot. It's a very inexpensive release. It's about $20-some. This is my wife's release. It's got a Velcro strap. I wouldn't strongly recommend it for hunting because it does make a little bit of noise in the stand, but it's also not very adjustable. The arm here that connects the caliper bit to the wrist strap is very long, and it's actually way too big for her hand, but I see so many young archers with hands smaller than my wife's using a release like this, and it just causes bad form and an unenjoyable shooting experience. I strongly recommend when you go into release that you kind of go one step up. You don't have to go 10 steps up, but just one step up. This is a True Ball. I don't even remember the name, I've had it for so long, but it has a much shorter arm, you can see here, and it has a lock nut on the back, and you can actually pinch the lock nut shut, and you can twist the arm in, and it actually even retracts it more. It makes it shorter. So not only do you have a little bit more adjustability, it also has a little bit higher caliper in terms of the tension and the adjustability of that. Again, it is Velcro, so it does make a little bit of noise in the woods, but I used this release for years and arrowed plenty of deer with it. If you want to start out with a cheaper release, go ahead, but if you feel like you're having a bad experience with it, step up one more, get a little bit more adjustability with your archery setup, and I think you'll be a lot happier with your experience. So I hope you found this video informative. I hope you're able to make some good decisions when it comes to you outfitting your bow, whatever the brand or price tag it may have. I just really hope you're able to have a good archery experience wherever you are in the world and whatever you're shooting with, that whether you're shooting a bag target in your backyard or a 180-inch mule deer out in Colorado. I just really want you to be able to enjoy the sport of archery and archery hunting if you so choose. I hope you're able to get out and enjoy God's beautiful creation, and we'll get to see you next time.